I will talk a bit about media environment in Georgia with focus on media resilience, organizational, structural, financial, and how some of the media outlets are trying to face those crises, financial crises, and what are the main mechanisms or structures, if any, to overcome financial difficulties that public interest media is facing in our regions. So this year is one of the important years for Georgia from the political perspective. You might already know that Georgia is facing parliamentary elections in October, and we are also expecting the EU decision to open EU succession talks. So before that, Georgian government was asked to undergo several reforms and take on steps towards democracy and making freer media environment and more safer. But at some point the government understood it in a way it usually does. And instead of making and including non-governmental organizations and independent media in decision-making process, they try to introduce a Russian-style, they call it transparency, but civil society organizations call it foreign agents law into Georgia, and the bill is targeting mainly public interest media outlets and also civil society organizations, since they are asking these organizations to register as foreign agents because they are getting more than 20% international funding. So it's not negotiable that public interest media outlets, including civil society organizations, are protesting. And finally, we were able to knock to our youth generation, and now we call them Generation Z. They are out into the streets and trying to defend their independent media organizations and also civil society organizations. So this is the context where independent media is currently, and you need to bear that this in mind when we are talking about financial resilience. So when you have the government which is very straightforwardly opposing the independent media as a player in order to hold them accountable, in order to get more transparency into budgets, to make less corruption, and to defend human rights law better, the only source probably for revenues is commercial, let's say, advertising market and other commercial revenues. And unfortunately, when the government is not doing everything possible to make the environment healthier, we have very much politicized advertising market. If you will look into the reports, in general, Georgian media landscape is described as partly free, pluralistic, though very much polarized. What does this mean? We have, let's say, big TV companies which are aligned to this or that political parties. For instance, we have government-aligned TV company, and we have 3 opposition-aligned critical TV companies. One of them is trying to back off and announced that they just dropped off their political ownership and trying to move towards more independence. We are all observing whether they will be successful or not, and trying to help them to be more independent as they unlike the past years. And we have online media outlets who are very much independent, holding public interest and conveying the news and information that is very useful for public. So those independent media outlets are strongly dependent on donor funding. Strongly dependent, when I say this, I mean sometimes it can be 80% of donor funding and 20% of commercial income. More successful media outlets are having business models, for instance, 60% of grants and 40% of commercial income, but this is very, very rare case. Most oftenly, donor funding, donor support is the main foundation that the media is relying upon. And for years, and many of donor organizations will agree that for years donor community was trying to lead the media organizations towards more financial sustainability, and it is really very important. But we need to keep in mind political and economic context in our region, and it is not true only for Georgia, but also, to my best knowledge, for Ukraine, Moldova, and Armenia including, that keeping in mind very shrinked advertisement market, we need to bear in mind that maybe financial sustainability cannot be an ultimate goal of media development organizations or foundations, but preparation to economic resilience would help media organizations more. What I mean by that, whatever we were talking in the first part of the day, for instance, prepare their editorial commitments to more professional and high-level standards. Have their self-regulation mechanism in place, have mechanism of transparency in place, have managerial structures in place where they will divide their commercial departments from content producing departments. Having in place all the commercial structures they need, including social media marketing department. So, I mean, building the organization and prepare the organization in a way to be ready as soon as the markets, advertising market in our region will be healthier than it is right now, or political pressure will be less than it is now. When we look at the general capacities of the media organizations, we see that there is a disparity between large and smaller media outlets in the capacity of their media managers. For instance, sometimes the management of workflows comes down to staffing levels. Outlets with the ability to separate editorial and management functions have better chance of developing and are more resilient to external pressure. Definitely smaller media outlets with, for instance, 3 or 4 journalists in the team, they are less capable to take care of their advertising revenues or building their commercial revenues more than they can, or trying to go to the market, and sometimes it can be easier for them to draft the proposal and grant proposal and try to get those donor fundings. Very few media outlets conduct strategic and business planning. Really very few of them look at these initiatives from this strategic perspective. Why it is happening? Because in most of the cases, media organizations are left with whatever funding is available on the scene. So they look at the announced calls and they try to fit into those open calls. And this is leaving them with very short-term funding, sometimes project-oriented funding or thematic funding. And I will say it is very important, as the journalists themselves and media editors are saying, but thematic funding can be essential only when core funding is there, is secured, and media so it is more like development rather than sustainability. Because when you don't know how to pay off the salaries, or how to pay your rent, or how to take care of your non-operational costs, you cannot develop your organization. You cannot foresee strategic development of the organization, for instance, in 2 or 3 years. You are trying to solve the burning short-term problems, trying to get your finances for salaries, to retain the team, and to continue producing content that you were producing. And especially this is true when there are some crucial political or economic challenges, and I would say that our countries, including again Georgia, Armenia, Ukraine, and Moldova, more or less we are facing challenges, severe challenges, and again I would say that some countries more and some countries less, but we are in the region where media organizations are really burned out, and not only because of the huge workloads, but again because of the scarce resources. So I would say that the level of skills also in online distribution of content varies. For instance, some of the media outlets who were from the beginning digital media outlets, they can work on their strategies better than smaller media outlets in the region. And again, this can be joint sort of thinking of donor community, how it is better to address those needs. Is it better to look at the media outlets that are important from the national standpoint, or to strengthen the smaller regional media outlets, or do it together, or maybe in coordination? Because how it happens now, it is that there is very less coordination between the donors, despite the fact that the media outlets themselves and donor community is keeping that coordination is essential. And I know at least 2 initiatives, one in Ukraine and another in Georgia. I don't know what's going on in Armenia, and we can share our experiences. Donor community is trying to coordinate better. That is, they're trying to meet once a month and create this sort of template where we are sharing information between each other, and not only sharing information, but try to foresee the upcoming challenges for our media environments. Yes, as I mentioned, in most of the cases, the public interest media depends heavily on donor support, although they try to develop other revenue sources. And these other revenue sources include also not only advertisement, but also different, let's say, sponsorship or PR services that they are providing to several commercial companies. Some of the media outlets try to develop subscriptions, and some can be more successful than others. And also some of them are trying to come up with such services as, for instance, book publishing or running hostels, and all the income goes to development of media organizations. And one of the successful business models that I've heard of is that many media organizations are trying to use donor funding for their content production not uses, but the content production needs, and not earmarked commercial money is something that they are using for their development, or even to create some kind of reserve funds that they will use when the challenging times will approach. So in sum, I would say that independent media in Georgia, and I think it is true for Armenia also, cannot operate and thrive in constant survival mode. and it is a result of a worsened media environment and political and economic pressures. When journalists face ongoing intimidation, it is very, very difficult to think about financial sustainabilities because they are trying to overcome daily safety issues and daily operational issues. There is a clear evidence that improved content quality and clear business and social media marketing strategies enable them to reach broader audiences, and I think this is the key for everybody because independent media organization per se is important only if we take into account the audience they are able to serve, right? Because the value and pressure of independent public interest media outlets are more informed and better informed audiences. That is something that we all, including media development organizations and donor communities, are striving to do. And when they have more support, they are better able to improve their quality, quality of their content, also technical quality, and they're able to gain more trust from the audiences. At this point, it is true in my country, in Georgia, that during the challenging times, audiences are turning to credible media outlets. When in regular times, they prefer those media outlets who are maybe sometimes more biased or sometimes providing more entertainment. But in challenging times or critical times or crisis, the audience knew where to find credible information, and they don't want just to be aligned to the content or narratives, whatever media is providing, but they want to hear truth, what's going on around them, in order to be better prepared to that. And finally, I want just, if I may, I want to tell you about, very briefly, about my organization that I represent, because it is very strongly interconnected with financial resilience and sustainability of media organizations. I represent International Fund for Public Interest Media. We're quite new. We've operating for a year for now in Eastern European region, and we're trying to be additional to those donor organizations and donor community that are working in the region. And we are now about announcing the open call for Armenia independent media outlets. So if any of you are interested to participate, be attentive. It will be announced on our website, or you can definitely reach me out and I can provide more detailed information. Thank you very much, and I'm ready for the questions.